Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday, October 6, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. Barely a week after dropping his re-election bid, Mayor Eric Adams traveled to Albania today, the start of a 4-day trip that's been raising some eyebrows here in the city. Meanwhile, among those candidates who are still in the race, there was more mudslinging aimed at frontrunner Zoran Mamdani today. And news of threats against the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa. Our Bobby Kuza has been covering the campaign trail today, and he joins us now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Bobby.
Good evening, Errol. Busy day on the campaign trail, but Mayor Adams is long gone from the campaign trail, and I think this trip to Albania raised eyebrows for a couple of reasons. First of all, international travel was at the center of his federal corruption indictment, right? And then in addition to that, there was all this speculation for weeks about him potentially getting a foreign ambassadorship from the Trump administration. But City Hall says this trip has nothing to do with any of that.
Mayor Adams left the race for mayor, and now he's left the country, at least for a few days. Monday, he took off for a 4-day visit to Albania at the invitation of the country's prime minister, according to City Hall. Adams, seen here at an Albanian culture reception in June, will visit with business and tech leaders, according to City Hall, which said the purpose of the trip is to direct more economic activity and tourism to the city.
I spoke to a number of Albanian New Yorkers just this weekend, but I went to Staten Island, and that's where I spoke to them. I spoke to them, and what I spoke to them about was what it means to work with them here in New York City.
Democratic nominee Zoran Mamdani took a swipe at the mayor Monday, but his focus was on his affordability agenda, which he acknowledged will take time to implement.
As the next mayor, by the time that I am done being the mayor of this city, this will be a reality for each and every New Yorker.
Elsewhere on the campaign trail,
boy, this has not been a good day.
Republican Curtis Sliwa said as the result of what he called credible threats against him and his wife, he's now traveling with armed security, which he said makes him uncomfortable. He called for ratcheting down the heated political rhetoric, including fear-mongering about Mamdani.
It's as a result of a frenzy of people out there who are probably unstable to begin with, who believe that I have to drop out of this race, or that it'll be the end of New York City as we know it.
He has a problem with the truth, that young man.
But in an appearance on ABC's The View and at a later news conference, former Governor Andrew Cuomo only sharpened his attacks on Mamdani.
He's a champagne socialist. What he has been talking about is garbage. We're now having a real conversation, and it's not just on TikTok. Hey, hey.
Cuomo attacked the Democratic Socialist as a hypocrite for holding a lavish wedding in Uganda and maintaining citizenship there despite its draconian anti-gay laws. Cuomo also echoed news first reported in the New York Post that Mamdani and his father were photographed alongside a top Ugandan official who's pushed those anti-gay laws. Mamdani's campaign said he was unaware of her background.
In reality, he's a mansion boy, son of millionaires, homes around the world, with a totally double standard for his lifestyle.
And as for Mayor Adams, city taxpayers are footing the bill for his travel to Albania, although the Albanian government is paying for his lodging and his travel while he's on the ground in the country.
Do we know whether or not there are like local businessmen? That was the pattern that led to all of the troubles in the past.
Right, and he is meeting, according to City Hall, with businessmen and tech leaders to talk about generating economic activity here in New York. We don't know a lot of details. We only found out about the trip a few hours before it was going to happen. We learned about it late last night. So not a lot of details on this. And of course, the mayor only has, 3 months left in his term. So it seems like maybe a strange time to go out and begin drumming up interest in New York City. But, he's off the campaign trail, so he's got more free time than he
Right,
used.
30 days till the election, and then 58 days until a new mayor gets sworn in. He's got 88 days to do whatever.
And we don't know exactly what the mayor is going to be doing once he's out of office yet.
Very interesting. So now, when it comes to the threats against Curtis Sliwa, I saw him earlier today, and he does, in fact, have a pretty big detail with him, and it's all private. Why didn't he just use the NYPD protection that would have been offered to him?
He was actually asked about that today, and he said he thinks the NYPD has enough on their plate. He said it's an option that would have been available to him but he has the campaign funds to pay for his own private security, and he decided to go about it that way. And he said he's not comfortable with this. He said he's used to being on the street, and we see him. He's campaigning on the subway. He's never been afraid to go anywhere, and he said he's going to keep up that type of campaign schedule, but now because of this very credible threat, according to him, he's got to do it with security.
All right, thanks, Bobby. And while the candidates are crisscrossing the city on the campaign trail, some are ahead and others are behind in the race for money. Our Courtney Gross went through the campaign filings and joins us now with a closer look at the numbers. Good evening, Courtney.
Good evening, Errol. Bobby was just talking about what Curtis Sliwa was doing with some of his campaign cash. And we know that Zohran Mamdani has been ahead in the cash race, not only ahead in the polls, but is ahead in the campaign cash race as well. But the latest campaign finance filings, which were due on Friday, shows that Andrew Cuomo is raising some serious cash as well. Let's pull up the net contributions there. You can see Cuomo raised $895,000 during the last filing period. Curtis Sliwa, $423,000. Zohran Mamdani, $410,000. And you can see there Eric Adams with a negative raising there. That is because he had to refund some money. I guess this is why potentially he dropped out of the race. He knows, he did say in his explanation that this was one of the reasons why he dropped out of the race. And what happened when Eric Adams dropped out of the race? Well, who benefited from that? In the 36 hours that was in this campaign finance filing, Andrew Cuomo pulled in 40% of the entire money he raised during the entire month-and-a-half filing period, raising $376,000. For comparison's sake, what did Zohran Mamdani raise during that filing period? Only about $2,100. We should note that Zohran Mamdani said that he was done raising money at the beginning of September, that he had met the matching fund cap. It didn't necessarily need any more donations, but people continued to donate to him nonetheless. And where do things stand overall? How much cash estimated do all of these candidates have on hand? Zohran Mamdani still ahead there with $5 million. Curtis Sliwa with $2.2 million, Andrew Cuomo with $1.4 approximately million, and Errol, the Campaign Finance Board, will be meeting at the end of this week on Thursday, and they are likely to dole out millions more in that public money.
It is striking how much money Curtis Sliwa has raised. Have raised more than Andrew Cuomo is really quite something.
Yep. Well, I mean, he's also been getting a lot of public matching funds, so that is certainly to his advantage. He's expected to get more public matching funds. So it is quite a difference compared to some of his previous runs for office, where he really struggled to raise a lot of money. And clearly he's gotten some support in this run for mayor.
Now, one of the things that complicates this whole picture is that there are these outside groups that by law cannot coordinate with the candidates, but different groups are putting money towards different candidates, some more than others.
Yeah, and we're keeping a close eye on that. We're actually going to have more on that in a report tomorrow. Obviously, Fix the City, which was the big super PAC that got a lot of attention during the primary, spending tens of millions of dollars to push the Cuomo candidacy, putting out a lot of ads on the airwaves. We haven't seen that much thus far. There is a group supporting Zohran Mamdani, New Yorkers for Lower Costs. They've started to raise a bit of money, and there is some spending here and there. I was just glancing at the Campaign Finance Board website, seeing what they are spending some money on, and it's a lot of digital ads. It's a lot of text messages. New Yorker for Lower Costs, the Zohran Mamdani Pro Super PAC, actually put out a pair of shorts that I think it says fast and free on the behind area of the shorts, trying to promote the free bus program.
Okay, we'll see how much money they raise.
I don't know how much they are, actually.
Yeah.
We'll update you on that tomorrow.
With the other candidates, though, with, I mean, you know, $5 million for one and $2 million for another, 1.4 for another, I'm not seeing a lot of ads. I guess I'm wondering what's happening. Now, is it all like just sort of targeted digitally so we wouldn't necessarily perceive it?
There has been some ads on cable, but they haven't been shown in this finance filing period. I think Curtis Sliwa released his first ad, a week or two ago. Zohran Mamdani just released his first ad last week. You're starting to see them. I mean, there was that notable ad that Zohran Mamdani released last week during The Bachelor on ABC, where he was handing out a rose potentially to New Yorkers, you know, kind of gimmicky.
I see. Okay, thanks very much, Courtney. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at a new book written by a former city official who had a romantic relationship with Mayor Eric Adams before he became the mayor. Later on tonight, I'll be joined in studio by Molly Wausau Park, the commissioner of the city's Department of Social Services, to talk about a new report on connecting New Yorkers in shelters with subsidized affordable housing. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A new memoir from a former girlfriend of Mayor Adams seeks to soften the image of the embattled mayor and his fight for his political future. Jasmine Ray says that she hopes her self-published book makes New Yorkers rethink their assessment of a man who's been clouded in scandal and now no longer seeking a second term. Our Kelly Mena spoke to Jasmine Ray and joins me now with more. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And that book published yesterday, making the rounds, called Political Humanity. We spoke to her earlier today about the goal of this book. She says she's been in the background for many years, and now she's detailing her close relationship with Mayor Eric Adams.
She loved the mayor in secret for years and even worked for him briefly. Now she's ready to tell her story. Jasmine Ray says her newly released book, Political Humanity, is a story about love, loyalty, and forgiveness, seeing Mayor Eric Adams as a, quote, flawed human. The book's release comes more than a week after Adams ended his campaign for re-election. Ray is hoping that the book could change the tide on his future.
We all make mistakes, and we are all hopefully given a chance to course correct, right? I don't understand what Eric has done to make the city want to turn their back on him.
For Ray, the mayor running for a second term is personal. She first met Adams in March 2014 at a basketball game. They immediately connected and by mid-2015 were romantically involved. But then in October 2016, Adams had his sights set on Gracie Mansion and abruptly ended things.
It was very shocking, very sad. I need to protect you from my life. I am doing this thing and I am distracted by our friendship.
It wasn't until the fall of 2021, after Adams won the Democratic primary, that they would speak again. Adams wanted her back on his team. In December 2022, she became the director of the newly created Mayor's Office of Sports, Wellness, and Recreation. Ray held the $161,000 a year job until last month when she resigned. On whether she got the job on merit or connections, she told New York One.
You know, I think just like any human being is when you get a job or when you have a position of influence, the first thing that I naturally would think of is who do I know in my mental network that can occupy this position. I think that anybody who knew me knows I'm there because I know the work, and nobody can dispute that.
Less than 2 years into her post, Ray found herself in the eye of a storm when the mayor came under federal investigation. Her closeness to the mayor left her exposed. Ray says she was subpoenaed 4 times and sat for the grand jury multiple times. At one point, she said she became the star witness in the now dropped federal corruption case against the mayor. The mother of 2 says she would have testified, but doesn't believe the federal investigators presented a strong case.
It's tacky. If you did this thing, just apologize to New York. I think New York is going to be like, okay, he asked for airplane upgrades. Who wouldn't? I would.
The mayor's office confirmed last month that the two had a relationship, but 10 years ago, not while Adams was in office. Ray said the book is about placing Adams in a new light and giving him a chance at redemption.
And you'll get the truth behind what happened with this man, what he really cares about, and who he really is. And I think that we need to take a second look at him.
Ray says she started writing this book in 2020 and then finished it just in time before she resigned to publish it recently. She said she read chapters to the mayor as she got closer and closer to publishing date, and he had mixed reactions. Some days he liked it, some days he didn't. Some days he wished she left some things out, Errol.
Well, yeah, the part that really struck me, and I did read it, the part that really struck me was her saying that she was going to be the star witness in a superseding indictment and that she went to the grand jury 4 times. That's not somebody who's like peripherally giving them some stray information.
Right. I mean, and this is somebody that clearly they believe had some type of very critical evidence to their case. It's unclear what that is. She hasn't divulged it. It wasn't in the book at all. But she says that at that point, that's when she knew it was very serious and that she got nervous. You know, she's been close to the mayor for years, not just romantically, but through friendship. And she felt that she had nothing to hide in her phone, at least, and that's why she took the proactive position to go to the grand jury and testify.
Right. And then when she says that this job that was created for her, there was nobody ever in that position before, there's nobody in the position now, it was essentially created for her, and she's saying that that was some process other than the personal favor of the mayor?
Yes, she says that she got that purely on merit, that the mayor saw potential in her, he wanted her to continue her work, whether it was through wall ball or another sport, and that's why he created that position for her, and she stands by it till this day.
Okay, thanks very much, Kelly. Public transit advocates are highlighting the importance of specific projects, hoping to garner support from the candidates for mayor ahead of the election next month. A report from the nonprofit Riders Alliance delves into a dozen major bus improvement projects that could help speed up some of the city's slowest commutes. Our Olivia Leach has more in this report.
Riders who depend on the bus along Fordham Road in the Bronx say they're fed up with slow and overcrowded buses.
Oh, it's terrible. I find it ridiculous. It's not running well, like it should be.
Rush hour, it's out of control. It's like impossible to even get on the first bus that you see.
It's slow. How slow?
If you miss it like 15, 20 minutes, you gotta wait. And then when they do come, it's like well packed.
But a new report from the Riders Alliance is renewing attention to canceled plans for a Fordham Road busway in the Bronx.
So we have busways throughout the city. The most prominent one is on 14th Street. And on a busway, buses and trucks get priority and cars make the next turn off the street. So pickup and drop off is fine. Deliveries are, fully available and in fact made easier. But the through traffic is for buses and trucks, and that means much faster bus service.
Which could shave minutes off commutes here and along the 11 other bus routes across the city, highlighted in the report. Potentially speeding up commutes, something many riders here welcome.
Maybe it'll improve on the traveling situation and not being overcrowded and stuff like that.
For the first time ever, the Riders Alliance endorsed a candidate for mayor, Zohran Mamdani, because of his pledge to make buses faster and free.
There's a huge question mark hanging over somebody like Andrew Cuomo, who months and months ago promised a transportation plan, hasn't delivered. Slow buses waste riders' time, but with much better buses, riders can achieve an enormous time savings, and it's worth the investment.
Now, Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa mostly focuses on issues in the subway like Cuomo, especially when it comes to subway safety and crime. Now, these bus improvement projects would need the support of City Hall, especially because they're spearheaded by the City Department of Transportation and would need the cooperation of the MTA. In the Bronx, Olivia Leach, New York 1.
It is time for a break. Coming up next, we'll take you into the legal battle over President Trump's attempts to deploy National Guard troops to Democratic-run cities. A report from Washington, D.C. is coming up in 2 minutes. Stay with us. This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual.
When I come home late,
and a few generations.
you're always there.
And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
Stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A dramatic legal battle is playing out over President Donald Trump's attempt to deploy the National Guard to more American cities. The Democratic governors of 2 states are pushing back, calling the deployments unnecessary, un-American, and illegal. Spectrum News national political reporter Taylor Popolars has the latest from the White House.
President Donald Trump's attempt to deploy troops to cities run by Democrats is facing pushback from state and local officials and the courts. The White House Monday was undeterred.
Why should they be concerned about the federal government offering help to make their cities a safer place?
On Saturday, a federal judge blocked the president's attempt to send the Oregon National Guard into Portland. The judge, appointed by the president during his first term, said the Oregon troops were not needed because the protests were, quote, not significantly violent or disruptive. The White House then tried to sidestep the decision by deploying troops from the California and Texas National Guards. The judge issued a new order Sunday night, temporarily blocking any troops from being sent to Oregon until at least October 19th. The president is also trying to send 300 Illinois National Guard troops and some from Texas to Chicago, but Illinois and the city filed a lawsuit Monday to stop it.
Donald Trump is using our service members as political props and as pawns in his illegal effort to militarize our nation's cities.
A separate federal judge in Chicago ruled Monday that the Trump administration has 2 days to respond to the suit. In the meantime, the deployment of troops was not blocked. The president repeated Monday that he thinks troops are needed to protect federal immigration agents from protesters.
Why is it that a governor wouldn't accept free help from regardless? I mean, whether it's National Guard or the military or anybody.
California Governor Gavin Newsom said Sunday night that America is on the brink of martial law because of the president overriding multiple governors. President Trump also said he is willing to invoke the Insurrection Act if necessary, but so far he does not feel it has been. The act allows a president to deploy active duty military in a state against a governor's approval if specific conditions are met. Reporting at the White House, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
It is time for a break. Coming up, I'll be joined by Molly Wausau Park, the commissioner of the city's Department of Social Services, to talk about a new report detailing the success of the agency at helping homeless New Yorkers get into permanent subsidized housing. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it's saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A new report from the city's Department of Social Services details the record-breaking progress that the agency has made in connecting New Yorkers to permanent housing. The agency says that today more than 60,000 households use the city's housing voucher program known as City FEPS. The program helps New Yorkers move out of the city's shelters and into affordable housing. The Social Services Agency also says it has connected more than 37,500 New Yorkers in shelter to subsidized housing in a single year. That's the highest number of subsidized placements in more than 2 decades. But of course, it's not all good news. Officials are sounding the alarm about cuts to key federal programs under the Trump administration that will hurt New Yorkers. Joining me now to talk more about all of this is Department of Social Services Commissioner Molly Wasser-Park. DSS oversees both the Human Resources Administration and the Department of Homeless Services. Welcome back to the program. Great to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks so much for having me back.
This is a titanic amount of work. I guess the numbers that stood out to me in your report, 28% increase in the number of placements year over year, taking people out of shelter and into permanent housing. Total of 50,000 shelter residents moved into permanent homes last year. This is in part because you created a whole new agency or sub-agency to try and deal with it, right?
We brought all of the housing functions that were across the agency and brought them together under one team. We really think that this is going to increase transparency and accountability. Really, before you had housing across the agency accountable to, the only person who was all accountable to me, it was me. And while, you know, that matters, I think it matters a lot to have a single line. Landlords, tenants, others can know where to go to if they have a question. But it has really been an all hands on deck effort to move the needle and to continue to raise the number of exits from shelter into permanent housing. You know, dozens of really technical and very unsexy projects, but that improve the use of technology, streamline documents, lots of training, and it's really paid off. As you mentioned, the 28% increase over last year. Last year was also a record-breaking number. In the 2.5 years that I've been commissioner, we've more than doubled the size of the City FEPS program.
So now you also have a homelessness prevention administration unit.
Yes.
And you're trying to prevent people on the front side. What does that consist of?
So again, sort of bringing together some programs that were scattered across the agency. We have our Right to Counsel program, so those in housing court can have access to an attorney. That was not connected to the programs that help people access emergency rental assistance or get other kinds of counseling to avoid homelessness, to stay in their homes, prevent housing instability. So by bringing that all together and really actually stripping out from that area some things that weren't related to housing supports and housing stability, we're going to allow them to focus. I really think that this is cementing our identity as a housing agency. It's not what most people think of when they think of the Department of Social Services, but you know, we are running one of the largest rental assistance programs in the country.
Well, yeah, in fact, I want to, if you could put up that graphic, folks, I want to take a look at that. City FEPS, you know, you're up to about 96,000 households, making you the one of the largest housing authorities in the nation. So that's the charcoal portion on the extreme right. That shows kind of where we're up to as far as the numbers who are being served by all of this. Yep. You have a lot of other services, but City FEPS is the, I guess, the engine that really drives all of this.
Yep, we've got about 60,000 households on City FEPS, and then another close to 30 or so on other forms of rental assistance through the HIV/AIDS administration, the state's FEPS program, a few other things like that. But City FEPS is where the growth has really come.
Are we indirectly driving up the cost of housing by having the city pay for so many apartments?
So we set our benchmark our rents, the rents that we will pay to the HUD established or federally established fair market rent. And that is by definition the 40th percentile for rents around the city. So this is something that gets reassessed every year. So I'm quite confident that that we are benchmarking to moderate rents in the city.
Let's talk about the federal actions that are going to maybe harm the safety net. There are 1.8 million New Yorkers who rely on SNAP benefits. That's for food. About 500,000 of those are kids. Yep. What's likely to happen in the near future?
So H.R. 1 made a number of very significant changes to the SNAP program. It requires us to implement new work requirements, and we actually got guidance from the USDA late on Friday that those are slated to go into effect very, very quickly. There's going to be a large swath of New Yorkers who are going to need to meet work requirements in order to qualify for food benefits. It reduces benefits that many households are eligible to get. It eliminates SNAP benefits for certain categories of legal immigrants. And then significantly, it shifts a lot of costs from the federal government down to the state and then ultimately to the local level. That might not be felt immediately by the households, but when we talk about City FEPS, that's a very large city tax levy funded discretionary program. If we are now responsible for covering significant costs that should be a federal responsibility, that puts strain on City FEPS as well.
What is the work, when it comes to the work requirements, what does that mean in practical terms? In the old days, when it was first implemented in New York, it meant you had to come in and, look through yellow pages and prove to somebody you'd gone on some job calls and things like that.
So for the universe of people who are eligible, which under the new rules is people 18 to 64, so they've raised the age limit quite substantially, who don't have a dependent child under the age of 14. They need to demonstrate 80 hours a month worth of work. And there are some, variety of ways that you can do this, but the thing that I keep coming back to is that it's not enough to work to comply with work requirements. You have to be able to document, and those hours have to be consistent. So, for example, I was in Washington, D.C. and at a hearing, and there was a home health aide who was testifying in front of the committee about the impact of SNAP work requirements. She worked multiple jobs, but if one of her clients goes into the hospital for a week, she doesn't have work hours.
She works when the agency calls her.
Right. And so, in a world where a lot of people work in a shift economy, a lot of people work in a gig economy, being able to consistently document that you meet those work requirements is really challenging. I absolutely anticipate that a lot of people are going to lose their SNAP benefits.
Yeah, I saw your estimate that, upwards of 130,000 could be impacted. That's not to say they would all lose their benefits, but they'll have to comply.
There's 130,000 who are in this new definition, broader definition of eligibility, and then another 90 to 100,000 in the original definition of eligibility. So it's a lot of people.
There's a program, Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. I don't know how you, PROWARA, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, it's a terrible acronym.
Terrible acronym. But it's they're reinterpreting it in a way that is going to remove some critical life-saving benefits, is what your agency is saying.
Yeah, this one's a real challenge. This is the Welfare Reform Act of 1996, so this is something that's been around for a very long time. Shortly after it was originally passed, there was an interpretation that said certain categories of public spending don't count as benefits for which you have to do an immigration check. The Trump administration this summer reinterpreted that and said, essentially anything that the public sector, that's federal government, but also state and local government, is spending money on, you now need to do an immigration check in order to provide that service. There's a stay right now. We're very grateful to Tish James and the other attorneys general who led that. But it could mean, if that stay was lifted, right, that if somebody goes to a food pantry, because we put $70 million a year into food pantries, that they would not be able to access emergency food unless that they can demonstrate that they are a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, that's got to go to court, because they're clearly dragging you into their immigration, their mass deportation campaign.
It is absolutely targeting immigration, but it's going to hit all kinds of people, because who in that moment of crisis, when you need to go to a food pantry, thinks to take along your birth certificate or your passport?
Right. In our last minute, you've been in social services in the city going back to, what did you say, the Giuliani administration?
I started in government in the Giuliani administration.
Okay, so presumably you'll be around for the next one. What's your advice to the next mayor?
I think it's going to be a really challenging balance to manage the combination of the federal cuts, but then it's also really important to think proactively and to continue to advance an agenda. I'm encouraged that across the board there's all of this conversation about affordability. We know that need is high, and I think continuing to focus on that while managing through the federal challenges is going to be challenging but important.
Okay. Thanks very much. Congratulations on all the work you and your folks are doing.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll turn back to the race for mayor when I'm joined by two top consultants. Stay with us.
The next downtown local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One, because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching. Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As the race for mayor enters the final 4 weeks, the candidates continue to trade jabs as they seek to gain an advantage. Joining me now to talk about the state of the race and much more are the members of this week's Consultants Corner. Democratic consultant Trip Yang is here, and political consultant and state Republican committeewoman Shereen Murray. Thank you both for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I was with Curtis Sliwa earlier today. He said that he's campaigning for the first time with armed security, private security, because of credible threats against him and his wife. He claims the threats are related to him dropping out of the race. What's going on there? I mean, I just assumed when I heard that millions of dollars put into advertising saying that this is an existential race and our way of life is at stake and all of this kind of stuff, it just amps up. It raises the temperature so high, it only takes a couple of crazy people, really only one, to really buy into that, and then here we are.
Absolutely, as we've seen with the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, how unfortunate that the political rhetoric has brought violence onto our political leaders. And so, you know, Curtis said that he pondered it over with his team over the weekend and deemed these threats to be viable. And so one can only take him at his word. We're used to seeing him as a guardian angel going out and protecting people. And now he's even declined police detail, right? He's funding it himself as just because the police department is understaffed. And so he's taking money out of his coffers to protect himself and his wife. I think that's very admirable.
Yeah.
This is no longer a Republican, well, it's not ever a Democrat or Republican issue. This is really a pandemic across America. The issue of political violence, extremism, gun violence, of course, Charlie Kirk, some of the threats against Curtis Sliwa, and of course, Zohran Mamdani, who would be the first South Asian and Muslim American mayor of the city of New York. He's been dealing with credible death threats for months, ever since the primary. And so all of this has to be condemned. At the very base minimum, if you're a Democratic nominee or Republican nominee for a major office, such as the mayor of the city of New York, you probably should have police detail, you know, from the get-go once you win the nomination.
Would you both agree with me that some of the advertising, some of the messaging, especially from some of the outside groups, has really sort of created an atmosphere that's conducive to this kind of extremism?
I would say on the GOP end, some of the more extremist Islamophobic, xenophobic attacks. Senator Ted Cruz recently called Mamdani some of the most xenophobic things that you've heard in this year of 2025. And so on the GOP end, you've seen some of very explicit racist and xenophobic, Islamophobic attacks for sure.
I beg to differ. I mean, we've heard calls of racism. I'm a Republican. I fall under that bracket, and I'm no racist, right? I'm not one that ascribes to violence, but that's what we're seeing. There's a lot of divisive rhetoric that's coming from the likes of AOC, Jasmine Crockett. The hierarchy of the Democratic pool is really spewing.
Let's just keep it to the city, though. I'm talking about the ads that we've seen that suggest that, you know, something evil is lurking in the election season.
The otherism of Mamdani is very real. By the way, he's not the first candidate who's experienced this. In 2021, Eric Adams experienced, I would argue, some racist attacks during the election. I would say John Liu, when he ran for citywide office, some of this, are you a foreigner? Are you not really an American? And by the way, no one is saying all Republicans are racist. I actually think it's a very small sliver of extremists. But, you know, racial extremists tend to be more on the GOP side more often than not.
Let me move to a different topic. The attacks on Mamdani by Andrew Cuomo in particular, he went back to it again today, for having middle-class parents. Do voters actually care about that?
Listen, he did not move the needle in the primary election. He got beat handily by Mamdani, and to run the same playbook is not going to work in the general election.
See, he's assuming, I mean, and when you ask his team, they're assuming, they're saying, well, it's a different electorate this time. So maybe it didn't work with Democrats, but it might work with this larger...
I agree with my friend across the aisle on this issue. You know, look, Andrew Cuomo, in 80, 90 days, probably going to move back to Westchester when he gets his second loss of the year. Look, in all seriousness, when you look at this polling in this race, Mamdani favorables tend to be 10 to 12 points above water. What that means for viewers back home is that he's pretty popular with voters. When you mix in Democrats, Republicans, Independents, at plus 10 to 12 is really good. Cuomo's generally at minus 10 to 12. He's very unpopular, and unlike Curtis Sliwa, Republican voters actually like Curtis Sliwa. So Andrew Cuomo, he's kind of stuck in political no man's land.
Oh, he was on The View today. They seem to like him. Those ladies seem to like him. Well, the sitting mayor, who is now not running again, is in Albania today.
Yes,
I think he's still there as we speak. What's that about? I guess he's really checked out.
Well, yeah, he is a lame duck at this point, and we'll say he's not vacationing, but, you know, these are some of the issues that warranted him receiving that federal investigation when he was cozying up to Turkey and all of the foreign you know, relationships that we've seen come out in his tenure. And so, you know, he says he's trying to tout the economy here, build relationships for New York City, but we'll see what becomes of it, as I don't believe that he has any media with him. But it's ironic that, you know, Albania is paying for his lodging and his transportation on the ground while city taxpayers are paying for the rest of his trip.
I don't know if it really matters for the function in New York City when you have 80-something days left of Eric in office. Look, the city's been functionally run by folks like the first deputy mayor, Randy Mastro, the previous first deputy mayor, folks like the police commissioner, the city planning commissioner, et cetera. You know, you have experienced city bureaucrats running the day-to-day of city government. You know, if Eric wants to have fun in his last 80 days, just let him have fun.
Yeah.
The swagger man with no plan.
Right, let's take a short break. We've got more to talk about with these consultants. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
What would you do if love came with shadows?
Hello, I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric. I'm Jasmine.
One woman must navigate the dangerous space between loyalty and betrayal.
Political humanity. What you gonna do? Love and power, truth comes through. Shadows of betrayal. Legacies call. Standing tall when the world falls.
Tonight, we start with the controversial investigation of the mayor.
When your grandfather's legacy is known as a...
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my Consultants Corner. We have Democratic consultant Trip Yang and political consultant Cherie Murray. And they were both smiling through that intro. I love this story. I will tell you, having read the book, it doesn't quite live up to the trailer, but the trailer's pretty good. What would you advise a client to do when something like that is kind of lurking out there?
If Eric Adams was my client and a trailer like this is lurking out there.
You tell them go to Albania.
I'd say, you know, just stay focused, no distractions, and grind.
Okay, look at it.
That's pretty salacious. I am in awe. Her book is $7.99. I think this is made for TV. I would like to see Tyler Perry, as you said, pick this up and make this something that we can watch. It's pretty entertaining. I mean, his ex-girlfriend putting out a tell-all book just as he exits the race for mayor. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I was hoping that more would be told. That would be of interest to the political class, and it doesn't quite live up to that. Although there's some tantalizing hints where she says she's pulled aside by prosecutors who tell her she's going to be the star witness in a superseding indictment. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. You know, this is about 100 pages in, and it doesn't quite follow up.
It feels like one of these straight-to-home DVD type of movies that you watch on reruns 20 years from now at 2 a.m. in the morning. You know, it just comes back on. I hope you get your $7.99 back.
No. It was money well spent. I mean, we learned some things there. Let's talk about the other scandal that's going on, which is we're in what, day 6 of the government shutdown?
Yes, we are.
Who is going to get blamed for this?
Well, right now it's the Schumer shutdown, right? The House Republicans have passed a bill, a continuing resolution that is just placed on the desk of the senators, and Chuck Schumer decided to make modifications, amendments to that, and they're calling for the restoration of some of the funding that was pulled back by the BBL, as I like to call it. We all like a BBL, the Big Beautiful Law. And so, you know, it's up to the Democrats. The last shutdown under the Trump administration went over a month, 35 days, I believe it was. And so we'll see, you know, the Republicans aren't blinking right now, and neither the Democrats, but there's major loss for, you know, the American people, the working class.
If you look at the polling recently, more Americans actually blame the Trump Republicans for the shutdown than congressional Democrats. Look, at the end of the day, tens of millions of Americans will lose their health care if, you know, Trump's one big ugly bill continues. And so, look, it's very clear at which party Americans are blaming this on. But a final thing I'll say is that this is a great example of how right now you're smiling at me because I respectfully disagree.
Yes, I do disagree.
The polling shows folks blame Republicans more. But I'll say this. It may not matter when we get to November 2026 for the midterms. It's a long way off from now. The final thing I'll just say is that when Trump is in office, Democratic base voters really want to see fight in their leaders. They don't want to see some type of tepid statements. They really want to see some fury, some anger. This is actually a great opportunity for New York House Republicans, for example, to really get out there, you know, make the media airwaves and really, you know, demand things, show fury, show some energy here. Well, that's what the base wants.
I mean, the one thing that seems clear, and you know, based on what both of you were saying, is that either the government shuts down, which is going to cause a lot of pain to people, or insurance premiums are going to spike. This is the time of year where you have to sort of figure out what your insurance is going to be for the following year. A lot of people are going to get thrown off their health care or find it unaffordable or have their premiums doubled. There's going to be pain either way. And again, the question becomes, are they going to just blame it on the political class as a whole? Because if so, that's not going to work for the incumbents, right?
Well, we elected them to work on behalf of the American people, and right now they're not working on behalf of us, right? We have the WIC program that's going to suffer, along with health care that's going to suffer, but I do disagree. It's not millions and millions of people are going to be kicked off of their health insurance. These are just illegal migrants who have no business receiving federal subsidies from our tax-paying dollars.
I mean, when you say kicked off, I assume you mean the shorthand for, like, you know, if your premiums double and you can't use it anymore, which is like half of all small businesses in this country.
The studies from the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office have shown that over 10 million Americans will lose their health care. So this is very substantive. It's very smart for Democrats in the House and the Senate to say, hey, look, health care, this is really what's critically important, extending Obamacare subsidies, for example, having something to latch on to. And so we will see how this goes. My money is on the House and Senate Democrats.
Is there real pressure on Democrats to fight? Is the Democratic base making its wishes known or its needs known?
What the Democratic base really wants is just to show leaders that, you know, have leaders that really show fight, show energy. You know, whether it's the Fight Oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders and AOC or the Cory Booker filibuster, you have to show some level of fight because statutory power-wise, when you're in the minority in Congress, of course, Democrats simply don't have the same tools as those who are in power, but you got to do what you can do in this moment.
Hakeem Jeffries is weak. He's a weak leader. He doesn't have the gusto for or to manage the far left progressive wing. Chuck Schumer is weak. You know, we are not seeing real leadership from either of these two leaders.
What should they do? Give them some advice.
Well, I mean, for the most part, they should open back up the government, right? Stop with the politics at play and reopen the government and bring their demands after the government has been opened. There is room until November 21st, I believe, for them to really have a more substantive conversation about the issues that matter most to them.
Would that be seen as anything other than capitulation?
Look, you got to get something out of this. House Republicans should negotiate on extending Obamacare subsidies. That's a very central plank of the House and Senate Democrat strategy. Unfortunately, I don't know if the House Republicans have a real leader. It feels like President Trump is a real leader here, so they'll probably have to do what he says.
Okay. Thank you both for coming by. Great talking with the both of you. That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Floor Spire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute, how are you still online? And I was like, Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.